What inspired you to begin building your Christmas light show out here every year?
I had an idea on my way to a music gig years ago, about 30 years ago. I was on my way to Bathurst, and I'd left Newcastle. I was on the road to Bathurst. I come up a hill, and I see this house. It's lit up like I'd never seen before. I pulled the car over. It was dark, it was in the middle of the winter. That was probably around maybe 6 o'clock in that range. I get out of my car, I have no camera, of course, nothing, and I just stand and watch. And I look at the different situations. And the way he had his house, it was a lot of solid colors, like the windows might have been pink framed, and then the door might have been red or something like that, and then the eaves might have been blue. It wasn't a multicolored situation. And I am drawn to solid color. Once we see the property here, you'll see that there is some multicolor going on, and I think where I have it is fine. Mm-hmm. But I am more of a solid color guy, and that's what was going on this house, and it stayed with me. And I said to myself, someday, when it's right, I will do a show. And 30 years later, I did it. You know, too many people that I've seen do these things have used multi. I compare what I'm doing to a canvas and drawing a scenery, and then it's completed. Mm-hmm. It's not just a whole jumble of colors. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is a certain color. That's its spot. You know?
Yeah.
And my brain sort of thinks that way. I think sort of from the art part of it, because I'm a musician, and
right.
And I think, you know, this has to be this certain color to match with this color. I don't use a lot of multi. On the front of the house you will see the multi works up in there. But everywhere else around here, there's not much multicolored lights. It's mostly solids. I set them up a certain way, and I don't really pre-plan. Like the way I set it up this year is different than I set it up last year. It'll be different again next year. Last year I had teal on a teal colored light on that bush in front here. Mm-hmm. I switched the teal colored lights to another bush, and I moved the pink lights to this bush. I prefer this. The teal is not going to come back on this because I prefer the pink.
Okay.
So maybe pink will always stay there. I don't know. The others, it's a flexible thing, and I may change my mind. But the things that surround it, to me, that color has to work within what's around it, and that's why it takes you so long to do something like this. You know, that's why it takes you the 4.5, 5 weeks, because you only got one guy that's working with you or whatever. Once in a while, most of the time I'm alone. Deborah helps me with the assembling, because I hate to assemble, but really it's kind of a one-man operation. I don't have cranes, I don't have this, I don't have that. So you got to take your time and you have to think it out. It takes a lot of hours.
And there's only so much you can really do in daylight, and then you have to look at it at night and see, okay, is that idea even working?
Because you can't see the effect. If you can't see the effect, then you might get it up, and then bang, you're saying, I got to take that down. Now, if we're talking the peak of the house, hey, that's a lot of work. If you have a crane, that's a different ballgame, I suppose. I don't. So I have to try to be thrifty and careful as to what I put up there or wherever, because it may take me another 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours to get it back down again. So if I do it in the darkness, there's a better chance, you know, that I have an idea is going to work. I can plug it down below. I can look up and see, compare that way. In the daylight, you can't do that. So you are very much limited to the darkness.
Starting from square one, you're pulling your lights out for the new year, and you put them up and it's complete. How long does that process take?
This time it's about 4.5 weeks, maybe 5. But some of the lighting is left on the house. There's parts of the house, or there's portions of lights that remain, and same with the garage, that remain up all year. If I think that the weather won't damage it, then I may keep it there. Other things like the star patterned, framed, all that stuff I unscrew, take that down, store it, whatever. But still, so if you're asking me how long does it take from the time you begin About 5 weeks.
Roughly how many hours a day would you put into that? Or is it mostly weekends?
There's very few days that I'm not out there.
Okay.
I had a cold about 2.5 weeks ago, so there were 2 days in a row that I didn't go out. But that was really the only time that I can remember not being out there. I have been at this every day for 5 weeks, except maybe 2 days. And you're talking anywhere from, maybe 3 hours, which would be minimum, to, God, you could be looking at 8-9 hours easy. I'm not in this house much during this time, and so I see her, she's, Deborah's watching television or whatever, I come in and I'm gone again. There's times she's at the door saying, isn't it time you come in? Because you lose track of time. That's, you know how that is. You get involved in doing things and you just don't think about time. You're in your element, you're in the moment, you're creating things, you're thinking that way, you're passionate about what you do. And I will say this, that anything I do, I get pretty passionate about. That's just the way I feel. I definitely have a passion in what I'm doing here.
Yeah, and if it weren't a passion, you wouldn't be doing it. That's a lot of work.
You couldn't do, yeah, you're not talking about a guy that takes 3 days to set up his lights. You're looking at 5 weeks. So, I mean, if it's going to be like pulling teeth, you're not going to do that for 5 weeks.
No, not if it's
I mean, I've heard some people, and so have you, who will put the lights up because their spouses want them to do it, but they're damn glad when it's done.
Yeah, that's
so there's nothing in it for them, and it's a chore. To me, that's not the way I approach this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like doing things that are that way. You can't put your heart and soul in it.
No, it's just, it lacks a certain something.
Yeah, well, I'm a school teacher, so I've even told kids, listen, even when you're shoveling your driveway, why can't you do a good job? Why can't you be proud of the fact that you did a decent job?
Yeah.
So that's the way my brain works. My brain sort of works I like to be proud of things. Look, I don't know how many times I've moved things out there. For Elmo, I moved him 3 or 4 times. I moved a reindeer 2 or 3 times, and I could stop and think about all the things I moved, where somebody's just going to put it and leave it. You've got to make sure it's well anchored. The winds we get here, I sit it there, I anchor it enough so that I can go back on the road at a vantage point and see whether that's the place. Right. I may come back and keep it in that same place and move it 3 inches. Oh yeah, if it isn't centered, if the face isn't looking the way I want the face to look, I got to go move it. I want to have this so that when you get out of your vehicle on that road and you look at things are placed the way they're supposed to be placed, with thought. Yep. And therefore, you get people saying that. They say, clearly, what you've done here, you put a lot of thought in this. They can see that. Yes. So, I mean, you're proud of the fact that they said it.
Yeah.
Right?
Because they noticed that it wasn't just thrown there.
Yeah. They notice how the face is angled. They notice how this fits with that. And that's what we're talking about here. It starts with the suckers. The sucker changers on the front lawn will always be in that position. And the reason that they will always be in that position is because I will always create the runway. I want the runway. The runway will always stay. Different things could perhaps form the runway.
Okay.
But I think I'll always start with the suckers because, and I've gone to different things since the suckers. But I like the suckers because there's 20 of them, say there's 10 this side, and they all go in sequence. So when one turns red, they all turn red.
Yeah.
And one turns green, they all turn green. And they look great, people like them.
Yeah.
And it creates an effect of what a runway looks like going forward. And then I build from there, going ahead, to the candy canes on the end. They're 7 feet tall. The angel sits in the middle of the candy canes. So it's going towards, to me, it's like going to heaven. That's what I'm trying to create, or going on a journey to reach the end. So everything can happen around that, and I'm not sure how it's going to go. But that will always stay.
Yeah.
You could not operate this with regular lighting. You'd have to have all kinds of power outlets everywhere. I'm running 4 outlets. 3 in the garage and 1 in the house. And I can do it on 3. Powers everything. 3 out of the garage, 1 on the house. But because it's about 85% LED, that's how I can get away with it. Am I paying more in power? Oh yes, I'm paying more in power, but not compared to what it would be if I wasn't running LED. I didn't get into the computer thing. I don't like computers for whatever the reason. We have none in the house. Would I go to computerized? Probably not. I'm a manual guy. I can operate it well the way it's going. Don't see the need.
Okay, very good.
I think the more complicated you get, the more you may have to fix. If I keep things simple, I think that simple fixes can occur. Whereas if I add computer, then I think I bring into something where, and to me, that takes away from hands-on and a piece of art that's done with your hands. I just want to get down there and get dirty and get her done. With all the computer imagery and everything else, then how creative am I? The technology sort of supersedes it. And so to me, keep it simple, and that's how you determine how, whether somebody has talent or not.
Very good. When do you normally shut down your whole show?
About 9:30. I don't like to go much long. I've gone past 10, but I prefer to go from about 5:30 to 9:30, about a 4-hour window.
Okay. Do you find you have people driving by around that time of night, or is it just that's your comfort zone?
I'm pretty much just going with the way I'm built. I mean, I think they do start rolling around. Yeah, 5:45. There's not that much activity past 9:30. No.
Do you purchase all your lights yourself, or do you have any sort of sponsorships at all?
I don't have any sponsorships. What I'm doing here, it suits my needs because I'm proud of what I'm doing. This also is a big thing for the community. The people are coming here and they act like children, and so what this does, it brings out the kid in everybody. When people see this stuff, it's stuff that they've seen on TV maybe, or maybe they've always wanted to do it, or they just look and they see it, and maybe it reminds them of, I don't know, Disney World, or because there's a carnival look over on this side, and they just it makes them like a kid. And next year I'm going to lobby for CBC. Hopefully we'll get someone down here, but this is a feel-good story. I'm taking a passion, I'm creating a canvas, I'm artistic, I'm a former professional musician, and so I think I'm decent at this because of that. I was an artist doing that, and this is just an extension of that. That's what I believe. Because in the music business, if I'm sitting down playing for 200 people, I had to play my songs in a certain order, and I had to be able to know what to do next to keep them dancing, to keep them happy. I mean, that's an art form. I know, I did it for 20 years. Every night that I played, whether I was playing for 4 people or whether I was playing for 200 or more, I tried my damnedest to try to figure out what it was that would keep them engaged so that they would come back some other time, and that's how you develop a following. I'm basically doing the same thing here. I'm trying to structure this in such a way, there's a plan to it all, and people that come get engaged in what I've done. To me, it's linked. Very much so.
When you pull your lights out of storage to put up for another year, how long does it take to test and troubleshoot the burned out bulbs?
If Deborah and I in the month of May, June decide, pull them up here, and maybe it's only one tiny set on the head or whatever, we may be able to modify something. But at that point, when I'm ready to roll, I'm not sitting there fixing it. I've already got stuff that I can use. I have stuff in boxes that I can assemble.
It would just take too long to troubleshoot every little bulb if you...
Well, absolutely. So what happens there, if I had a preconceived plan, that preconceived plan gets shot. Oh, I'm sure there's probably people that are competing with me. I mean, because that's the nature of the beast.
Of course.
To know for sure how many and how much, I don't know. It appears to me, from what people have told me, that since I've been doing this, they see more and more people doing it. That's all I have not had the time to go and look, other than last night. Rupert Haley and I went down the French shore and saw a magnificent lighting situation. He's got a great big property of land with a little tiny lake. He's got big Merry Christmas after it, and then he's got a whole whack of jazz going on. He's got it spread that way.
Wow.
Mine has got more depth to it.
Yes.
I have a tiny amount of land, but the way I have things set up, and also the way my land goes up in the air a bit. His was flat. He's got it going this way, and didn't seem to. His is not. Doesn't have much depth. Mine is deep.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like there's illusions that I can create because of the way I set it up.
Right.
And I'm careful as to where the height of the animal that I put, if it's an animal, or the height of the, so that this doesn't get in the way of that. And I have to be very careful with that.
Yes.
Because I've only got a little bit of land to work with. I gave him an A+. I was sitting there, and I thought it was fabulous. You get a chance, go see it. Babylon. But as far as town, I've seen a few just going here, going there to Sobeys or whatever at night. There are some, whether they're competing with me, maybe they are. If they are, good luck.
Maybe they just got the idea from you and have started to contribute to the town lights, and
either way,
either
it's all good.
Yeah.
Because it's a win. It's a win-win for everyone. They win, and the people that come and see it win. My show is my show. My art form is my art form. Anything I have seen is totally different than mine because they think differently than I do. Mm-hmm. I hope they take pride in what they do, and I'm assuming they do, and I take pride in what I do. I certainly don't see it as any kind of competition. I would have loved to have had someone from a radio station come, did a story to sort of give some focus to the town. Mm-hmm. There is an infusion of people coming now because of word of mouth. They're coming in from the French Shore, they're coming in from Bridgetown, so word of mouth is what's going to do this. Not only that too, the people that have put it on Facebook, the people that have put it on YouTube, they want to come and see it in person. So I just wanted AVR to come down here and it's a feel-good story. Why can't these people cover some feel-good stories? So next year I'm going to try to get CBC down here. So if the question is, do you have ample storage? I believe I do, and luckily I couldn't have pulled this off unless there would have been a loft in that garage. So I gutted it pretty much. Mm-hmm. That top area is mine to store this stuff. There's three main themes outside. There's the south side of the house, which faces Danny Corbett, and I call that the carnival scene. And there you're going to see pretty much anything. So movement or different color patterns, stuffed animals. It's almost like a theme park. That's one theme. The front of this house is totally different than that. And the front of this house is a gold. It's a gold look. Almost, to me, I call it a gingerbread. And the idea there was to take the candy canes, which I had purchased, and I loved the color of these candy canes. And I put them along the base of the porch. It was an idea I had. And I built the front of this house from those candy canes going upward. And everything in the front of this house is there because of the color of the candy canes. And I really like the front of this house because all you really see there is gold, red, and green. The rhododendron that's on the front is red and green. Mm-hmm. And pretty much every other color you see everything you see there is those three main colors.
Again, sticking with your color spectrum and palette.
Right,
for that
and that's
area.
what I wanted for that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so distinct from the other side. And then this year in particular, because last year I just dabbled in it, but the Arctic Grotto side, which is the north side, is cool, icy white. And so when you look down there in that section, you see really nothing but cool, icy white lights. So to me, it's three separate themes, but they work because they interconnect. And I've had people talk about that and say, yeah, you get three distinct scenes here, but they don't clash with each other. It just broadens the scope of what it is you've done. Mm-hmm. You take a little bit of land or a little bit, and you put three themes in it. Mm-hmm. And they're three very, very different themes. And it's kind of neat because the way my brain works, it's like from going from Jamaica to, you know, maybe Austria to Alaska. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like you're going from here, part of the world, to that part of the world, to this part of the world. Some people think that way, and I do.
Yeah.
And the themes, like when you look in that white side, you can think it's Arctic. It's got that feel. It's got that Arctic feel. You know, it almost can come to life if you've got an imagination. You can see a polar bear moving around. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is why I say when people get thinking like children, their imagination kind of takes over, and I find a lot of people doing that here. They're acting weird. It's great. When you start getting inside of people and start allowing them to, you know, to get rid of these tensions and stress, they act like children. It's nice to see.
Have you ever had problems with vandalism?
Not once. In the beginning, wondered. And I would have shut it down. I think a big part of that is, you know, I'm a teacher in the town. I try to be fair with my kids, and I think what I've gotten in return is respect from them. I think I really believe this.
Thank you for your time and explaining this to me, and let's take a look at your show.
Thanks. Let's go up and see the show.